Each learning theory has its own school of thought, but one point seems to crop up again and again. The more engaged students are in the learning process, the more they will retain the knowledge that they have gained. Hi, my name is Valley, and this is Introduction to Learner-Centered Teaching. Over the last decade, the principles of learner-centered teaching have gained widespread use throughout all levels and disciplines of education. Unfortunately, as the principles have gained popularity, the definition of learner-centered teaching has become a bit muddied and oversimplified. Although strategies like student engagement, active learning, and other practices that involve students in their own learning are a necessary component of a learner-centered teaching, these practices do not represent the entire philosophy of what it seems to be a learner-centered teacher. Looking at the research literature surrounding learner-centered teaching in the past 20 years, a book published in 2002 by Marilyn Weimer stands as one of the earlier attempts to comprehensively discuss and define what is LCT about. In Weimer's book titled Learner-Centered Teaching, 5 Key Changes to Practice, 5 key changes were significantly taking place in schools, namely, balance of power, role of the teacher, function of content, responsibility of learner, and evaluation purpose and processes. Let's talk about the first change, balance of power. Learner-centered teaching engages students in the hard, messy work of learning. I believe teachers are doing too many learning tasks for students. Teachers ask the questions, call on students, adds detail to the answers. Teachers offer the examples, organize the content, do the previews and reviews. On any given day, in most classes, teachers are working much harder than students. I am not suggesting that teachers should never do these tasks, but I don't think students develop sophisticated learning skills without the chance to practice, and in most classrooms, the teacher gets far more practice than the students. In order to balance power in the classroom, learners are frequently consulted and given immediate and ongoing feedback by the teacher. The teacher empowers students by giving them the opportunity to choose and make decisions like selecting among lesson topics, choose learning activities, determine pace of learning, and select an assessment task to demonstrate one's mastery of targeted learning competencies. Second change is the role of the teacher. Learner-centered teaching includes explicit skill instruction. Constructivism theory brings the role of the teacher as that of a facilitator of learning, not as a fountain of learning. Learner-centered teachers teach students how to think, solve problems, evaluate evidence, analyze arguments, generate hypotheses, all those learning skills essential to mastering material in the discipline. Students not only need to develop an understanding of a discipline's knowledge base, but they also need to understand how knowledge is organized and acquired. By learning how to solve problems, think critically, apply information, and integrate knowledge, students can learn to think like experts in a discipline. In other words, they not only need to learn content, but they also need to know how they can learn more, which is critical in today's environment where information is easily accessible and exponentially growing. The third change is function of content. Learner-centered teaching encourages students to reflect on what they are learning and how they are learning it. Current research evidence from educational psychology calls for a change in the function of curriculum content, which should be less on covering it and more on using content to develop a learner's individual way of understanding or sense-making. Teachers need to allow learners to raise their own questions, generate their own answers or solutions. From a constructivist perspective, knowledge cannot simply be given to students. Students must construct their own meanings. In other words, learners are capable of constructing and reconstructing their knowledge through active personal effort. This view debunks the current belief about students learning from passively receiving information transmitted from teachers via lectures. Fourth is responsibility of learner. In recent years, work on self-regulated learning has advanced, and the goal of 21st century education ought to be the creation of independent, autonomous learners who assume responsibility for their own learning. Adults are known to be capable of self-directed learning, and that continuous learning occurs across their career span and lifetime. Each student may require different ways of learning, researching and analyzing the information available. It establishes that students can and should be made responsible for their own learning. Learning skills of autonomous, self regulating learners can be learned and must be taught even at an early age. This is even more important when entering higher education. Students are encouraged to direct their own learning and to work with their students on research projects and assignments that are both culturally and socially relevant to them. And lastly, evaluation purpose and process. The literature on self directed learning also underscores the importance of assessment. Only in this case, it is the ability of students to self assess accurately. Sophisticated learners know when they do or do not understand something. They can review a performance and identify what needs improvement. They have mechanisms for its collections and methods for evaluating it and acting on it. Learner centered approaches are more effective than traditional teacher centered pedagogy. More than 20 years of research supports the statement, which begs the question, why haven't things changed? According to a classroom observation study discussed in the book, from a group of teachers that trained in learner centered teaching strategies, nearly 75% still implemented lecture based teacher centered pedagogies in the practice. According to the science of teaching and learning, learner centered approaches are the most effective way to teach students. In order to consider ourselves reputable educators, we should actively use evidence based practices to inform the way we teach.
Hello, good day. My name is Shana Sabia Paez Cotamora, and today I will be discussing about the SCL stands for Student Centered Learning, and as well the four principle of centered approach. In 2018, Caput reported the research about the student centered approach, and that was funded by the Neely May Education Foundation and UMass Denahu Institute. And this, according to them, this study surveyed 12 public high schools in New England in terms of how they apply learner-centered teaching in their classroom practices. And this survey summarized their findings into four consecutive process, and this is the four principles of student-centered approach. Number one is this one: the learning is personalized. It means these students engage in different ways and different places as well. These students can use tools and strategies that emphasize their abilities to express their curiosity and show their express their best work at their own. And for example, this one is one-on-one tutoring. Number two is learning is competency. This stands for students move ahead when they have demonstrated mastery of content, not when they even reach a certain birthday or endure the required hours in a classroom. Okay, and the number three is learning happens anytime, anywhere. And according to them, that learning takes place beyond the traditional school day, even the school year. Learning is also not restricted to the classroom. According to Caput study reported on the majority of participating schools were effective in personalizing the learning of their students and creating an environment where students took ownership of their learning. However, this anytime anywhere learning due to series of challenges that both teachers and administrators face. Teachers from the participating schools largely responded that student-centered learning promoted higher student engagement and facilitated learning that was more relevant to students. And further, a large percentage of the teachers contended that students in student-centered environments explored the curriculum with more depth and retained knowledge more effectively than in traditional settings. This SCL talks about how student makes co-creator of their own education as well where engaging them in divisions about what, when, and how they learn in that certain place or in that certain environment. And that's the new SCL right now. For the fourth is about the students take ownership of their learning. And yes, students are engaged in their own success as well as incorporate their interests and skills into learning process. um, this talks about also that why is it important to the students as well, the teachers, the SCL, why is it important the student-centered learning in this community? About um this narrate the succeed when the students usually succeed when what they are learning matters to them. When a student is success in that particular thing that they needed to pursue, it it is really matter to them what is to be succeed, what is to be done, and what the value of being uh satisfied of their own doings. And the curiosity of students drives education in student-centered learning. Yes, students always curiosity, this curiosity always navigate the students' minds, the the learning of one of the that pupil is very states is it always the student is always curious in every different ways. It can take a variety of forms depending on how it is adapted to each student and community. As well, students should be taught not only academic skills but also the skills of self-direction, the creativity, and the teamwork that will them succeed in the future. Because it is not only the student, it always the students with one of one another. You can't be succeeded if you are just if you are just yourself. It's always the creativity and the teamwork you had with your classmates and the community. And as well, significantly, it empowers students to be active participants in their own education as leaders and decision makers. Yes, students is always had their decision makers and they can be a leader in their community, in the certain community.
So, moving on to the top 20 principles for pre K to 12 teaching and learning. Before I discuss this topic, allow me to introduce myself. I am Jackie Wikagunang BS Ed English major student. The American Psychological Association, or the APA, published in 2015 its top 20 principles for teaching and learning for basic education teachers. These ideas are founded on decades of human learning research. It can serve as guideposts for today's research on how to make learning more enjoyable. Teaching that is focused on the students is known as learner-centric teaching. A brief statement from the American Psychological Association, or the APA, on the consequences. Psychological science has much to contribute to enhancing teaching and learning in the classroom. Teaching and learning are intricately linked to social and behavioral factors of human development, including cognition, motivation, social interaction, and communication. As a future educator, the top 20 principles revolve around the following key concepts to keep in mind whenever we design our instructional plans and implement them with our students. So these are the top 20 principles. So let's understand this by explaining each one of these principles. Prior knowledge is described as all of one's prior knowledge before learning about a specific topic. Prior knowledge is defined by Duchy 1992 as broad ideas such as global knowledge and background information. For example, one student may enter kindergarten having already learned to identify different colors and count to 10. Self-regulation is the ability to recognize and control your own behavior as well as your reactions to feelings and events in your environment. It entails the ability to control powerful emotions such as irritation, enthusiasm, anger, and embarrassment. Formative assessment refers to a range of approaches used by teachers to assess student comprehension, learning needs, and academic progress while a lesson, unit, or course is in progress. To put it another way, formative assessments are for learning and summative assessments are of learning. Giving an essay activity is subjective. For example, you're giving a high score to a student because it's your favorite student, but giving a multiple choice or quiz to the class is objective because it has the correct answers and everyone can answer fairly. Learners' belief on intelligence. Students who believe in the entity theory of intelligence believe that intellect is a fixed quality that cannot be changed. Students who believe in the gradual hypothesis, on the other hand, believe that intelligence may be acquired over time via effort and learning. Mastery goals. Students' attention is focused on achievement based on interpersonal learning standards with mastery goals. We commonly refer to this as being learning oriented rather than grade oriented. Eisen 1982. A summative assessment is one that is given at the end of course is instructional unit. These tests are used to measure student learning by comparing results to a set of standards of benchmarks. Midterm examinations, final exams, and final project are examples of summative evaluations. Creativity. Working toward the origin of something unique, both within the outside or learner of the is what creative teaching skills are all about. The inspiring classroom revolves around creativity. It gives students and teachers the freedom to express their thoughts. Interpersonal relationships. The ability of the teacher to create certain key circumstances that are needed in developing a healthy educational environment is central to interpersonal interaction skills. Warmth, empathy, respect, authenticity, concreteness, self disclosure, immediacy, and confrontation are all among these conditions. Measuring with standards. The process of assigning numbers to events based on a set of principles is known as measurements. The events under consideration is educational measurement are students' test performances. Teacher expectations. The teacher will expect learnings from students. They'll be able to apply what they've learned both inside and outside of the school. Social interaction. Social connection is crucial to learning and has been shown to be helpful in peer learning, reciprocal teaching, and behavior modeling. Collaborative learning is frequently the best technique to help individuals learn. Chi et al. 2001. Fair interpretation. Fairness in the classroom not only earns respect for the instructor, but it also offers students a sense of security and trust in the classroom. These are modifications designed to provide the learner the best opportunity of succeeding. Long term knowledge. The first and most obvious benefit is that you will improve your teaching skills by constantly expanding your knowledge. Emotional well being. The ability of students to use their competencies for democratic culture determines their well being success in and out of school. Because there are so many aspects to well being. Enhancing students' well being in school necessitates a whole school strategy that includes both teachers and parents. Feedback. Feedback is information about a learner's performance in relation to learning objectives or results. It should strive to boost pupils' learning and be capable of doing so. Contextual learning. Contextual teaching learning is a holistic learning process that aims to teach students to understand meaningful learning that is linked to a real life context such as personal, religious, social, economic, and cultural environments, among others, so that students gain knowledge and skills that can be applied in the real world. Positive relationships. A positive relationship with a student, according to educators, is tight and supportive, but not unduly reliant. They are respectful, value each student's uniqueness, and are kind and courteous. Student support. Listen more than you speak. Take control of the conversation. Allow students to express their emotions by providing opportunities for them to do so. And lastly, practice. What is practice as teaching and learning? Effective teaching or learning methods are evidence based teaching tactics that are consistently implemented and influenced by data to achieve positive long term results in every student.
Good morning, everyone. So today, we continue about our recording in lesson 1.1.2, which is talk about the learning-centered teaching approaches. So according to according to this image of teaching and learning, the ideal classroom of the first century learners have no longer be one in which 30 to 50 students. So ang sa, sulod, sa 30 to 50 students are some students are listening to the teacher or silently working the and also so on their own through contemporary teaching practices that involve of lecture drills and practices. So I have the three alternative contemporary practices. First is the talking to each other in small and large group. The second is making public their personal knowledge and belief. And the third is a constructing and the testing their knowledge with and peers and teachers. So in these three alternatives, it is very important siya para ma-master nimo on how or magamit nimo siya to how to socialize the other people. And the next is cooperative learning approach or CLA. So what is CLA? CLA is or sorry po or cooperative learning approach started becoming the most popular. Nag-start ni siya sa or na nag-start ni nag-popular ni siya sa in the in the 1990s in attempt to move away from traditional pedagogical approach that relied heavily of uniform instruction for a large of type classroom. So ang use po aning the CLE use the CLE used to socialize and interdependence theory, which propose that the behavioral outcome of the so person and the other is the cooperative learning is a strategy based on the principle that when you have to solve a problem or and also it is better to do it in a small group and then sharing your ideas with everyone else. This pair learning technique is effectively when you have to build rapport, rapport with your teammates, identify your strength or vocabulary. So, ang CLC, nice din siya if imong mga teammates maghatag mo mga different ideas ninyo para or para namoy work collaboration, something ano. And and the next is the and the next is what is advantage and disadvantage in cooperative learning. So sa ang advantage sa cooperative learning, I have a four na I given you a four. First is the excellence building. First is the achieving excellence. So in achieving excellence, in achieving excellence, it's a very important. So working with others is working with others. So unsaon para unsaon ni para achieve nimo siya. So working with others is when you truly realize your strength and weaknesses. So if mag-work with each other in our parang sa atong mga teammates na to, mga small group naman na siya, sabi nga na, mas ma-realize na to or mas mapakita na to dara ang atong mga strength and weaknesses. For instance, you have me to take care of communicating with kanang for instance of it kanang para sad nimo ma-communicate imuhang mga teammates or imuhang team yun. And the second advantage of the cooperative learning is the building teamwork. Building teamwork. So I believe that this is the most important advantage of cooperative learning because building teamwork and collaboration kanang it help to depend on others for some tasks that requires a uh, collaborative effort. So if wala tay ng something if wala kay if you don't have na if you don't have team building kanang wala kay murag collaboration imong group murag magubot na siya nang murag magubot mo kung saan maagi something ana murag wala mo unity kanang maglisod mo ninyo siya mo kuan because sa building teamwork ang gyud kanang everyone has something unique to bring to your group and you can maximize your skills to accomplish your objective and goals anang ang uban mo gyud kanang lahi-lahi gyud mga thoughts gyud or mga idea nato mo nang this is the this is the very important in the cooperative learning kanang mag gain gyud mag kuan gyud ta og team building effort or building teamwork die rather. So and the next is the effective communication. Um, effective communication. So in effective communication, the more you work with others, the better. The more you work with the other people or your teammates, the better you communicate. The better your communication skills will be. For will be so will be in in cooperative learnings, ang kaning effective communication, it help us help us or it help us in team to share your ideas freely without fear and judgment or kanang dili ka mahadlok mag-share sa imong ideas or and also to socialize or to communicate with other people. This is especially helpful when you're short of time and need to convey your ideas to our teammates. And the last of advantage of the cooperative is the time management. Cooperative learning is conducted in a friendly where time frame where everyone has tasks assigned to them. So this may learn more about about positive interpretation on how your task defines someone else. And so we're done to talk about the advantage of the cooperative learning. So ito ato kung ingon it na advantage ang isa ka if na advantage ang cooperative learning approach na po na siya disadvantage. The first advantage of it is the first of disadvantage of this is each member of the team will be likely work uh, disadvantage each member of the team will be likely work at different pace or that can derail a project unless they are devote on their same page mas bubot gid siya if dili mo kasi na sa imong ka-group mates mo. And the second is sometimes your goal may not align with your coworkers, and this can be cause a grief or a conflict that you can impact the project on your performance. So, if dili mo magpareha og thoughts gyud or dili mo magkasinabot kan syempre mag-cause gyud na siya gugot or conflict or ang kana if mag-cause na siya conflict kana yes impact yun na siya sa inyong project na mag or sa inyong performance. The last is that those who are more outgoing may dominant conservation and meeting overshadowing the quieter member of the team. Kanang kanang dili man dili man ako gyud malikayan na sa grupo na ginay hilumon gyud ba kanang mag-listen siya to interact which is not effectively to communicate with other. Dili na siya kanang dili na siya effective kana or dili na siya effective gyud nga pagkuan.
Hello everyone! By the way, my name is Robbie, and I will be presenting to you the fifth topic entitled Differentiated Instructional Approach or the DIA. So what is DIA? It is a concept that opposes the uniform type of classroom instruction. As you can see, uniform type of classroom instruction wherein teachers present their lessons without considering the readiness and interest level of students, thus creating a gap of intellectual growth. Teachers must utilize time flexibly, apply new teaching strategies, and set connections with the students. The DIA teaching style is time costly as it consumes more energy and attention as you create new learning styles that will be proven effective on the array of learning needs of each student. With this, you may establish connections to the students as you unveil their interest, readiness, and preferred learning modalities. So this learning approach was popularized by Carol Ann Tomlinson, who works as a teacher in the USA. She also authored the book How to Differentiate Instruction in Mixed Ability Classrooms that was published in 1995. According to her, that DIA teaching style is a way of meeting students' individual needs in education, differentiating three aspects of pedagogy: content, lessons that students learn; process, learning activities that help students to learn; product, the performance or the assessments of the students. The content usually comprises the learning materials we need before we apply the strategies in the process. We must make ready first the appropriate learning materials for each student to ensure their understanding of the unit. In the process, we may implement here the new teaching strategies and activities to each student in their preferred learning modalities. We can interact with the student to make sure that we answer their queries in the process, thus allowing them to fully manifest their learning aptitude on that phase alone. The product contains assessments as well as assignments that measure their overall understanding of the unit. So, differentiating content. Content can be differentiated in response to a student's readiness, interest, or learning profile. Teachers respond proactively to differences in students' knowledge, skills, learning styles, interests, and cognitive needs. Take note of the three highlighted words as they are the key elements of differentiated instruction according to the author. Readiness level differentiation among students can be utilized by procuring the correct learning material for a student's cognitive capacity. I mean, you can teach algebra to a grade 2 student, so it is appropriate that you must have the correct learning material that matches their capacity to learn. Interest differentiation can be used by matching their interests and likes to the learning style. Also, by doing this, you might extend their interest then prosper it. Learning profile differentiation can be employed by conducting a profile check on your students and their preferred learning modalities. So, differentiating process. Process can be differentiated again in response to a student's readiness, interest, or learning profile. Teachers may utilize technology to create blended learning classrooms that allow for multiple level activities. Differentiating process according to student readiness means matching the complexity of a task of a student's present level of understanding and skill. Differentiating process according to student interest concerns give students options about parts of the topic in which they have to specialize to help them correlate to their personal interests. After all, students are more passionate about doing the thing that they have interest in. Differentiating process according to the student's learning profile typically means enabling students to make purpose of their preferred learning modality. you must give them choices on what mode shall they like to express their idea, be it auditory or visual. Also, using the technology in our advantage is a must to make use of the time to create multiple pathways for the process. So, differentiating product. Implement assessments that measure competencies and analyze results to identify students' performance. And provide students with alternative ways to showcase the learnings of the unit. Differentiating product means that teachers will implement assessments and assignments that enable students to demonstrate how much they comprehend the unit and know its application in a real world setting. A great example of this is allowing them to freely pick their opted assignments, may it be individual or by group, presentation or research, and etc. As long as they implement their ideas and units mastery, since it is a long term process for each student. So, by the way, strategies for differentiating content process and product example. Strategies for the topic is grouping students according to their learning profiles, and in the process you may use independent learning strategies, and for the product is you may have a debate. Strategies for differentiating according to students' readiness, interest, and learning profiles. So, student readiness, you may conduct a pre-test to gather their pre-assessment readiness data, and for the interest, you may group them according to their personal likes, and for the learning profiles, you may group them based on their learning modalities. Also, why DIA is relevant. According to Joseph 2013, that majority of students reported higher levels of intellectual growth as a result of exposure to differentiated instruction. Moreover, Aranda and Zamora 2016 stated that students were motivated and enthusiastic in learning under the DIA. Also, a teacher using differentiated instruction became more creative, self-efficient, and open-minded. So basically, we see positive result on why DIA teaching style is effective as it garnered positive reviews and effective results that greatly affects the cognitive capacity of a learner, thus providing them the learning opportunity in which they maximize their learning aptitude. So in conclusion, differentiated learning approach requires dedication, time, and patience as you implement the methods you need in order to cater the specific learning requirement of each student. It is effective as it influences students to explore more and fully express their skills at their own comfort and pace. So, for more deeper understanding of the topic, you may use the references here. So, by the way, that's my report. Thank you for listening and watching. Thank you.
Hello everyone, good day. I'm Juan Pinoy and today I'm going to discuss the Personalized Learning Approach or PLA. Personalized learning is an educational approach that aims to customize learning for each student's strengths, needs, skills, and interests. And according to the United States National Education Technology Plan 2017, personalized learning refers to instruction in which the phase of learning and the instructional approach are optimized for the needs of each learner. It's also stated that personalized learning is a progressively student-driven model where students deeply engage in meaningful, authentic, and rigorous challenges to demonstrate desired outcomes. And it also has 4 design elements that have been associated to the personalization. And these are the design elements of personalized learning approach: flexible pathways, personalized learning plan, competency-based graduation requirements, student ownership, and agency. So first, let's talk about flexible pathways. Learning activities must be meaningful and relevant to learners. They are provided the opportunity to choose in school and out of school learnings. Modalities that are attuned to their socio-economic ability, interests, and needs. So what does it mean? It is the type of learning that beyond the traditional school wall. It is the combination of different methods of teaching, including the use of online platforms and digital or printed modules, like what we are doing right now, since we do have a pandemic. The other one is personalized learning plans. Learning plans are co-crafted by students with their parents and teachers, which best suit their needs, interests, and abilities. So the other explanation for this, and the simplest explanation for this, is that personalized learning plans, each student gets a learning plan that based on what they know and how they learn best. Okay, let's go to other one. Competence-based graduation requirements. Competence-based learning refers to system of instruction, assessment, grading, and academic reporting that are based on students demonstrating that they have learned the knowledge and skills they have expected to learn as they progress throughout their or through their education. Well, it is the when it comes to competency-based standards that are made clear, they have a standard that are made clear or being made clear to students at the beginning of the course. It is about the information and skill that a student mastered throughout their education. The other one is student ownership and agency. It is an active process of engagement and authority over their learning. Teacher must privatize education for students to own it. Well, in student ownership and agency, it is in making sure that students get to make decisions over their learning, becoming actively engaged in the learning and assessment process. We also have these teaching strategies according to approach. First, the traditional instructional approach. Under this traditional instructional approach are lecture, teacher demo, drills, recitation, student report, role play, and games. The other one is cooperative learning approach. Under this one is team pair share, jigsaw, team game tournaments or TGT, student team achievement division or STAD, and number heads, and the other one is inside and outside circle. This one is differentiated instructional approach. Under this one is tiered lesson, choice boards, graphic organizer, web quest, learning logs, learning contracts, and gallery book. The last one is personalized learning approach. Under this one is team wikis, group blogs, personal blogs, discussion threads, chat groups, pooling, and project e-portfolio. In summary, for learning-centered teaching approach to work, all teaching and learning approach must work together. This is not an a la carte approach. It's reimagining education so it works for all students. And that's all. Thank you.